Good day everyone, I am Michael, moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is Credentialing 101, a detailed guide to provider credentialing. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our presenter for today, Cati Harris. Cati Harris, CBCS, is a nationally certified credentialing, billing, and coding specialist with over 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Cati.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for everyone attending the class today. I hope that you'll glean some new information and be able to help improve your credentialing process and even be able to learn the credentialing process. Some of the learning objectives for today: when to start credentialing, set up and maintenance of NPPES or your MPI, INA management system, CAQH, and PECOS, how to review, validate, and track provider documents, how to prepare, review, submit, and track payer applications, items complete once the provider is credentialed and contracted, linking of previously credentialed providers with payers to your tax ID and contracts, and a brief overview of provider revalidations. The credentialing keys to success can be broken down into 4 ways: research, preparation, tracking, and communication. How do I start the process of credentialing a provider? The very first thing is research. Research is the key to successful provider credentialing. The research process is divided into 2 parts: your provider research and your payer research. So let's get started with your provider research. So those are the beginning pieces, the vital information. If there's an answer of no to any of this, you know that you have to stop and you cannot go any further until this is addressed. Part of the research on the provider side is the provider welcome packet. Continuing on with the welcome package, continuing on with the provider research, and for a purpose of showing you this, these are some of the forms that I was mentioning. Over here on the left, you'll see is the provider enrollment information. And this right here is your CV requirements for credentialing. This right here is just a quick example of the description of services. That's the welcome letter descriptions of services you should be providing in your welcome packet. So that part was the provider research. Now we got to move on to the payer research. For the payer research, one of the first things you want to know is what are the payer application and documentation requirements. Reviewing for the provider welcome package documents. You need your provider enrollment information document. You need your provider document checklist. You need your provider CV requirements, your welcome letter, and your description of services. For the payer research side of things and documents, you need your payer state applications. You need your payer or state applications, your payer contact information, and also a tracking spreadsheet, which I am also providing to you. This is an example of the cheat sheet that I've created for you for each payer contact information. The next part of the credentialing process is the preparation. Preparation can be organized into 2 sections: your provider document preparation and your payer document preparation. So let's start with the provider documentation preparation. Next, you want to review the provider's CV/resume. So now let's get into NPPES or the MPI, CAQH, Identity and Access Management, and PECOS. When credentialing a provider, you'll need to access various management systems to ensure the information is accurate, current, and attested. The management systems to access, as I stated before, are these 4. So let's get into NPPES. This right here is the website, the web link for NPPES. So moving on to the Identity and Access Management System. This is basically the system that houses the login and the keeper of the information. Moving on into CAQH. This is the link to go to CAQH. Next is PECOS. This is the system that you use to credential for Medicare. This right here is a sample of the provider verification form that I provide, where you can verify the medical license, the DE license, and the board certification. So that sums up the provider documentation preparation. Now let's look into the payer document preparation. So for application preparation, it's vital to complete the payer application with current and accurate information. Failure to complete the application correctly can result in delay, holds, or rejections. So let's talk about payer application submissions via email or fax. Sample copy of the cover letter and the fax cover. So application submissions via payer website. So let's go over of linking a provider or mid-level to your group. This means that the provider is already credentialed and you just need to link them to your tax ID and group contract. so that they are processing under your terms and contract. So if the provider is already credentialed, contracted with the payer as a participating or referred to as PAR provider, you'll need to complete a link to your tax ID and group contract. This right here is a copy of the link letter and the fax transmission. So provider revalidations, just a quick little thing with it. All payers require re-credentialing or revalidation once the provider is credentialed. So now you've submitted everything, whether it be revalidation, linking, or brand new credentialing. What's next? Tracking. Tracking is divided in two parts, document tracking and application tracking. For the provider document tracking, two of the document tracking tools are the provider document checklist and the Excel tracking spreadsheet. And here is an example of those checklists. For application tracking, I find the best thing is an Excel tracking spreadsheet and a calendar or planner. Here's an example of the tracking spreadsheet. Most importantly, communication. This is the key to successful credentialing across the board with your processing, your providers, everything. The biggest thing you want to do is minimize the impact to the provider and facility. The greatest impact provider credentialing can have on a practice is the financial impact. Some of those steps to minimize financial impact. So once the provider's credentialing is approved, what do you do next? First thing you do, request a copy of the approval welcome letter from the payer. So once you've requested the payer approval information, you'll need to store a physical and digital copy. Forms. So like I stated before, included with this webinar are several forms mentioned throughout the presentation. You've got your description of services, provider enrollment, CV requirements, document checklist, so on and so forth. So that finishes us up for the thing. And as always, if you're in need of an experienced credentialing professional and you answered yes, you're always welcome to contact me to arrange for a free consultation for credentialing services. I appreciate everybody's excellent questions and your attention and time. I know it's a little bit longer of a webinar. If you will follow the procedures that I've laid out for you in the steps and not get ahead of yourself and keep your communication and tracking open, you will be successful. You will have quick credentialing and you'll be able to keep yourself from stressing and be able to handle the providers when they are coming at you with a million different questions. It is time consuming. It requires knowledge with it, but if you can start here, you will be able to build on your skills from here as well. And, the forms and things that I created have all been from experience to make this a smoother and easier process for each of you. Thank you for coming and look forward to future webinars.
Thank you, Cati. So that does conclude the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. Hope you have enjoyed the session. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.